This is Muhammad Hamouda speaking. Today we are going to talk about translation of auxiliaries. Initially, the translation of verb to be and verb to do. To start with the outline of the presentation, translation of verb to be, translation of verb to do. In next lecture, we are going to talk about translation of verb to have and verb or modal verbs. Auxiliaries, as we know, we have we have four main categories of auxiliaries or helping verbs. The first category is verb to be, which includes am, is, are, was, were, and finally been. The second category includes or called verb to do, which are do, does, the past simple of them, did, and the perfect is done. The third group is verb to have. The present form is have and has. The second or the past form had, and the third also past participle is had. The last category is the modal verbs can, and they are called modals because they have only two tense forms. So we do not have three forms as or three tenses as other verbs in English, but these type or this category of verbs only includes two tenses, past and the present, and that's only can, could, will, would, may, might, and so on. So to start with the rendition of verb to be in the present form, am, is, are, and am, is, are. Actually, the literal rendition, look at I am a student. أنا أكون طالبا. Here, as you look, one-to-one or word-for-word translation strategy is used. Every word is substituted with its equivalent item, with its equivalent vocabulary in the target language, and am is rendered as يكون or as أكون. أنا أكون طالبا. The second one is she is kind. هي تكون طيبة. You are a father. هو يكون أبا أو أنت تكون أبا. Okay, actually this translation is unacceptable in Arabic because am is used as أكون, and we in Arabic we do not say هي تكون طيبة or أنا أكون طالبا. We say أنا طالبا. هي طبيبة. أنت أبا. Okay, so as we notice, we have the English verbal sentences. I am a student. Verbal sentences means that mean that the sentences that include a verb, while nominal sentences do not include a verb, only nouns. So Arabic also includes, verbal sentences and nominal sentences in Arabic are acceptable, while in English only we have one type of sentence, which is verbal sentences, subject, verb, and object or or the complementary part. Okay, so in this kind, in to overcome this strategy and make our translation more acceptable, we first of all we delete am is are, or the rendition of am is are is deleted, so they are untranslatable. And the second one, in this way we choose the verbal sentences into nominal sentences. Okay, so look at I am a student. أنا طالبا. هي طبيبة. أنت أبا. Okay, so these are, as you see, the English sentences are verbal sentences, while Arabic sentences are nominal sentences. So the first strategy is to overcome the strategy or the problem of rendering am as akun or takun, we can say changing the verbal sentences into nominal sentences, and in this way our translation will be acceptable. The second one is translating present continuous. Actually, we say the continuous present or present continuous consists of am is are and verb plus I and G. As you see, I am leaving now. Look at this sentence. We see am plus verb leave plus ing leaving. I am leaving. The simple or the word for word rendition, we say أنا أكون أغادر الآن. He is eating أنابل. هو يأكل هو يكون يأكل تفاحة الآن. We are speaking English. نحن نكون نتكلم الإنجليزي. Actually, if you look at the English sentence, the Arabic sentences أنا أكون أغادر الآن or أنا أكون مغادر الآن, it looks some so it is in some way it is strange. Why? Because أكون or this structure usually is unacceptable in Arabic. So first of all we can delete يكون or akun, so the is are not rendered into Arabic, and at the same time we can use the the lexical al-an as a lexical term or a lexical item to donate the present continuous in Arabic. I mean in Arabic. So we say أنا أسافر الآن or أنا أغادر الآن. هو يأكل تفاحة الآن. نحن نتكلم الإنجليزية الآن. So using الآن is to denote present continuous, and am is are is deleted. The rendition of am is are is deleted. So in this way we can deal with the translation of present continuous. The third one is passive voice in present simple. If you know, I am given another chance. This is a passive sentence. In the present simple, look at how it is rendered. أنا أكون أعطيت فرصة أخرى. هي تكون تدعى إلى الحفلة. They are put in the same situation. هم يكونون يوضعون في الموقف نفسه. Actually, look at the structure of Arabic sentences. It looks very, very strange. To overcome this and to make the structure is more acceptable, actually in Arabic we have a full-fledged structure. It is very non-structure for passive voice. We can use the Arabic equivalent structure. So it is not acceptable to render word for word, to render word for word, the sentence word for word and rendering am is are into yakun, but we can use the passive structure in Arabic to make our translation is acceptable, to make our translation more acceptable. For I am given another chance, we can render it أنا أعطيت فرصة أخرى. In Arabic I am sorry, I am given another chance. أنا أعطيت فرصة أخرى. We can say أعطيت يعطي or يعطي أعطي. For example, أنا أعطيت. تدعى, she is invited to the party. هي دُعيت إلى الحفلة أو تدعى إلى الحفلة أو مدعوة إلى الحفلة. They are put in the same situation. هم يوضعون في الموقف نفسه. So using the passivization rules to render the sentences, or using the structural passive form to render the passive voice, the passive voice into from English into Arabic. And now moving to render was and were. Actually, they are rendered as يكون. Okay, so if we say the child was ill, الطفل كان مريضا. The bird was beautiful. الطائر كان جميلا or كان الطائر جميلا. The players were one team. كان اللاعبون فريقا واحدا. So was and were are rendered as كان. كان in Arabic donate the past simple tense, and so we use كان to render was or were, and in this way we keep the same structure of the sentences. The past simple in English are rendered into the past simple in Arabic by using kana. So was or were is rendered as kana. But if these are in the passive progressive, as we know, kana or was and were plus verb plus ing, it is a passive progressive structure. Now, her mother was preparing lunch. We can كانت والدتها تعد الغداء. We can my brother was writing a letter. كان أخي يكتب رسالة. So to donate or to render the past progressive sentence, we can use كان plus the present verb in Arabic كانت and تعيد فعل مضارع. So كانت plus فعل مضارع is the past progressive structure, is the equivalent structure of the past progressive in English. Okay. Now, using was and were to indicate the passive voice. The food was eaten. كان الطعام مأكولا or كان أكل الطعام. I was deceived. أنا كنت خدعت أو مخدوعا. Actually, these are structures in Arabic are strange. These structures in Arabic are strange. It is more recommended to render the Arabic sentences using the passive or the passivization rules in Arabic. The food was eaten. We can say أكل الطعام, or I was deceived. خدعت or لقد خدعت. The boys were dismissed. طرد الطلاب. And that's enough. So using the passivization structure to in Arabic to render the English passive structures is more recommended than rendering was or were into kana or yakun, and that's enough. Now, translating been into كائن. Actually, where have you been? أين كنت كائنا? Actually, been, if been is rendered as كائن into Arabic, the translation will be awkward, some so it will be strange. Actually, it is recommended not to translate it at all, and we can say where have you been. أين كنت. She has been late. كانت متأخرة or تأخرت. And that's enough. So we have two options. We actually the present or been. Where have you been? It is present perfect. It is changed into past simple. So if been is in the present is an indicative form to the present perfect, we can render it, or we can render the sentence as a present or as past simple, and that's enough. So when she has been late, we can say كانت متأخرة as a past simple, and that's enough. Okay. The third one, translating B into يكون is acceptable. If B is used, it is acceptable to render it as يكون. Uh, for, for example, look at these sentences. He will be with us. سوف يكون معنا or سيكون معنا. You can be a good citizen. تستطيع أن تكون مواطنا صالحا. So rendering be into يكون or كان is acceptable. Now moving to verb, translating verb to do. First of all, verb to do consists of do and does as indicative forms for present simple. Did is an indicative form of past simple. And finally, done, it is the past perfect. So, look, actually, do, does are used to negate the present simple. In this way, actually, they are not translated, but but we use a particle, a negative particle la, to render do and does in the present simple negative form, or in the negative form of the present simple. For example, he does not like coffee. إن لا يحب القهوة, we use لا to render not, but does is not rendered. Some people do not smile. بعض الناس لا يبتسمون. At the same way, do is not rendered, but not is rendered as لا. So in the present, do and does are not rendered in the present in the negative form of the present simple, but we use the particle la as an equivalent particle of not in this situation. But now do or does in the question form, actually they are used as hell. Do you sleep early? هل they are rendered as هل. Do you sleep early? هل تنام مبكرا? Does John play football? هل يلعب جون الكرة؟ did Ali wait for you last night? هل انتظرك علي ليلة أمس? So, do and does in the question form, they are rendered as هل. Okay, now sometimes do and does are used as a substitute or as substitute verbs. For example, do you admit that? هل تقر بذلك? Yes, I admit that. But instead of saying yes, I admit that, we say yes, I do. So the clause admit that is substituted by do. Okay, so what is meant by substitute verb? We substitute a phrase into by, or substitute a phrase or a whole phrase by do or does or did, even or did in the past. So look at did she swear? Yes, she did. هل, it means that did she swear? Yes, she sweared. Okay. So, actually, we can use the verb أفعل or فعلت to donate, do, and does, and did as substitute verbs. Okay, but also it is active. So, do you admit that? Yes, I do. هل تقر بذلك؟ نعم أفعل. But we can say نعم. هل تقر بذلك؟ نعم أقر. So we can use either, we can render them as أفعل or فعلت, or we can render the phrase or the original phrase which is substituted. Did she swear? Yes, she did. هل أقسمت؟ نعم فعلت. or نعم or هل أقسمت؟ نعم أقسمت. We can say in this way. Both translated versions are acceptable and recommended, but the second one, which is rendered the original phrase, is more acceptable than using أفعل or فعلت. Okay. Uh, do, does, did as main verbs. Actually, if they are main verbs, not auxiliaries, we can render them into several verbs. For example, يكتب, سأفعل, يفعل, يكتب, for example, على ما يرام, and so on and so forth. For example, I will do my best, سأفعل ما بوسعي. Or Mary does her job well. تقوم ماري بعملها على خير ما يرام أو على أكمل وجه أو على ما يرام. So we have several options to render do, does, did. Uh, he did his homework yesterday. كتب واجبه بالأمس. So we can did is rendered, so did is rendered as كتب. So did or does or do have several options, several equivalent items in Arabic if they are main verbs. Mm, Now, actually, do, does, did can be used for emphatic purposes. For example, Muslims do recite the Holy Quran every day. Actually, we can use certain verbs to indicate the emphatic purpose, or to reflect or to keep the same emphatic degree in the target text. For example, we can use بالتأكيد, حقا, بلا شك, uh, and so on. So we have certain emphatic purposes, so that we have certain emphatic uh, particles in, or lexemes in Arabic. They are they can be used to render do, does, and did if they have emphatic purposes in the original text, I mean in English. For example, the woman does fear Allah. المرأة تخاف الله حقا أو فعلا أو بالتأكيد تخاف الله. Okay. The girls did behave well. تصرفت الفتاة بشكل حسن. ولقد أحسنت الفتيات التصرف. أو the girls are. لقد أحسنت الفتيات التصرف حقا. أو لا شك أن الفتيات قد أحسن التصرف. بالفعل لقد أحسن التصرف. بالتأكيد لقد أحسن التصرف. So we have several lexemes which can be used to indicate the emphatic purposes. Now, that's the end of our lecture. If you have any question, feel free to ask me whatever you want. Also, I'll be with uh, I'll be with you next lecture to talk about other others, or to talk about uh, to continue talking about auxiliaries, mainly modal verbs and verbs to have. And that's end. Thank you very much.